Hey guys, David Chamberlain here, live at SEMA Show. How are you guys doing today? Hit a like if you're enjoying what you're seeing. If you can go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and like and share our page. If you can do that, you'll have a chance to win a free T-shirt. I've got Lake Speed here. He's the brains behind the stuff in the bottle, and he's going to share a little bit about what we have new at SEMA this year.
Thanks, David.
Yeah.
Super excited to be here at SEMA. It's Halloween, so it's kind of a crazy day. And we actually have the perfect colors for Halloween, too.
Yeah.
The orange and black and everything. But today we're actually launching a brand new line of oils called DI. If you're not familiar, DI is an abbreviation for direct injection. So a lot of the new cars, for example, like a 2016 Camaro or Corvette, actually has a direct injection engine where you don't have a carburetor, you don't have traditional fuel injection. The fuel injector is actually in the combustion chamber. So opposed to the fuel being sprayed up here and then traveling down to the combustion chamber, fuel sprayed directly into the combustion chamber. These engines are more powerful, very efficient engines, but direct injection has its own set of negatives. One of which is these engines create soot, which can create like diesels, and without proper formulation, it can increase wear in the engine if you don't deal with the soot particles properly. But the biggest issue with direct injection engines is what's called low-speed pre-ignition.
Now I'm going to stop you there. So we gave you guys a little bit of a teaser there on our comment about the LSPI, the low-speed pre-ignition. Before we get into that, though, Lake, tell us a little bit of the downfalls of directing the fuel directly into the cylinder below the intake valve. What do you see there in a direct injection engine?
So one of the issues with, like you're talking about with DI, is that because there's so little time from the time you inject the fuel to the combustion event, you don't really atomize the fuel very well. A lot of people don't realize that, if you had a 55-gallon barrel of fuel and you put an igniter in the middle of it, it would not blow up.
Right.
You can't burn liquid fuel. It has to be atomized, vaporized for it to burn, right? You put the match above the 55-gallon drum, everybody's dead and gone, right? So that's one of the issues with DI engines, is that you're spraying the fuel in the combustion chamber. A lot of the strategies are you're spraying the fuel on the piston or the cylinder wall that has heat to try to evaporate. Well, the problem is if the fuel hits a cylinder wall, there's oil in the cylinder wall.
Right.
So now the oil starts to mix, the oil and the fuel begin to mix.
Right. And you get a Frankenstein chemical or something that you can't even measure because it's there and it's gone.
Right, the combustion chamber, the combustion event makes it go away.
Right.
But what can happen is, we've seen it over and over again with these DI engines, is that Frankenstein's a great way of saying it, especially here in Halloween, right? That you're mixing this fuel and the oil mixed together, and it creates a third molecule that's neither fuel nor oil.
With a lower octane rating.
Exactly, the octane's lower, so it ignites before the piston hits top dead center, which is not a good thing.
Right. You guys are all familiar with knock and pre-ignition. Detonation is what a lot of people know it as. And the direct injection oils, and this is where we're going to get into the LSPI, the low-speed pre-ignition, and that's what he was just bringing to light. What about deposits? What about intake valve deposits, where you have a traditional port injection versus the direct injection?
So again, because the injector is downstream of the valve, there's no fuel to wash the intake valve clean. Now, you wouldn't think that there would be any deposits or anything getting on the intake valve, but there's two ways there's deposits get in the intake valve.
Tell us how they get there.
So one is the intake valve is opening and there's still residual stuff in the combustion chamber that wasn't completely scavenged by the exhaust.
Okay.
All right. Then the other thing is, because modern engines have what they call, positive crankcase ventilation, well, there's all this stuff, oil vapor, unburned fuel vapor, blow-by gases, all throughout the crankcase. It's being sucked through the PCV into the intake manifold.
Okay.
Which is why a lot of intake manifolds will have a oil film inside of them. It's from the
PCV system,
because it's hot there, so it's a vapor.
Tell us about how we formulate the oil to reduce and combat these issues with low speed pre-ignition intake valve deposits, soot control, soot handling. Tell us about some of what goes into the oil formulation, the engineering that you do to reduce these issues everybody's seeing.
So the first thing you have to do is start with the base oil.
Okay.
Because the reason why that oil ends up in the intake manifold going through the PCV is the oil has to be vaporized. So the volatility of the base oil has a direct impact on how much oil transfers to the intake manifold, which then gets to the back of the intake valve and causes the carbon buildup.
Okay.
Well, the first way to keep carbon buildup from happening is to prevent volatility.
Right.
So to prevent volatility, you've got to work on the base oil. So the base oil mixture helps prevent that. So then the next thing is
the low-speed pre-ignition.
Low-speed pre-ignition, and that's going to be from the detergent package.
Okay.
So the traditional detergents like sodium, calcium at high levels create low-speed pre-ignition. It creates hot spots, essentially, or helps facilitate this formation of this Frankenstein molecule. So by reducing, or if you really want to eliminate sodium completely,
okay,
and then reduce the calcium detergent, now you can eliminate the formation of this Frankenstein species by
that mixes with the fuel. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. And then the next thing is you want to handle the soot.
Right.
And
now, what can soot do to the engine if it's not controlled or handled properly within the crankcase?
Well, so soot is hard carbon particles. They're just very small, but as they stick together, because like likes like, they begin to form larger hard carbon particles, which then become abrasives, and you get abrasive wear. It's especially problematic on variable valve time engines where you have all these small hydraulic passages where it can cause things to bind up, or even worse, wear things away, and you bleed too much, and you get too much bleed off, which is lifter noise and those kind of things. A lot of times can be from soot-related wear. Also, timing chains gets inside the rollers and wears the rollers out, which then your timing isn't correct, and that's really bad.
Right.
So you need to be able to disperse the soot particles so that they don't stick together. Okay. So the chemistry is designed to keep the soot suspended away from each other so they don't turn into damaging abrasive particles.
Okay. Now, guys, we're looking at releasing the new DI oil beginning in 2018. And just to kind of give you guys a little glimpse, sorry we didn't have this display turned around for you, but this is our DI 30, for example. We're going to have 4 different viscosities. We're going to have, if you can share that with them.
So DI 20 will be 0W20
yep.
for all the engines that call for that. We'll have DI 30, which is a 5W30, which will be for
your LT1s.
Yep. Also your BMW engines as well. Right. Some BMW engines at least. Then we'll also have a 0W40, which will be for your Porsche, your Audi vehicles, Mini Coopers that call for that. And then also we'll have a 10W60 for the BMW Sport engines that call for 1060.
Okay. Well, guys, I think that'll wrap it up for us today. You've heard it first here live from SEMA Show 2017. Thank you.